How's it going? Irish wrestlers you should know. I'm Randy Ritchie, and this is sponsored and brought to you by Premier Pro Wrestling. And today, in commemoration of one of the great Irish American businessmen in the history of our country, but also another guy that you guys wouldn't have your internet wrestling community today if it wasn't for. Talking about Vince James McMahon, Vincent J. McMahon, Vince McMahon Sr., Vince McMahon Jr.'s father. Vince McMahon Sr. was an American professional wrestling promoter. He is best known for running the Capital Wrestling Corporation, which was later renamed the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, then the World Wrestling Federation, during his tenure from 1953 to 1982, and of course, as you all know, currently called WWE. Early life. Vincent James McMahon, Vince Jr., was born on July 6, 1914 in Harlem, New York, to Rose and Jess McMahon. Jess, again, a successful boxing and wrestling and concert promoter who had worked with the legendary Madison Square Garden promoter Tex Rickard. His parents were both of Irish descent. He had an older brother, Roderick James Jr., again, that's Roderick III, and younger sister, Dorothy. McMahon saw the tremendous potential for growth that the professional wrestling industry had in the era following World War II, especially with the development of television and its need for new programming. Similar to boxing, wrestling took place primarily within a small ring and could be covered adequately by one or two cameras, and venues for it could readily be assembled in television studios, lessening the production costs. Should really take heed there, Tony Khan. McMahon's group, the Capital Wrestling Corporation, which was later renamed WWF and World Wrestling Federation, came to dominate professional wrestling in the 1950s and 60s in the nation's most populous area, the Northeast. His control was primarily in Baltimore, New York, and New Jersey. Despite its name, the company was, like all professional wrestling promotions of that era, mostly a regional operation. It was, however, the one that came to dominate the most lucrative region in 1956. McMahon began airing his matches on television Wednesday nights on the Dumont Network. The telecast originated from an old barn in Washington, D.C. It was one of the struggling network's last 5 sports telecasts before it went out of business the following year. However, WABD, Dumont's flagship station in New York, which is now Fox, and it is called WNYW, kept the show after becoming an independent station airing wrestling on Saturday nights until 1971. In her biography, the female wrestler, the Fabulous Moolah, claimed that McMahon was one of the first promoters to split gate proceeds with his wrestlers. Now, that was customary, and I guess now I'm finding out myself that it was Vince Sr. that came up with it, and it makes so much sense. At the end of the day, I'll tell you again, go and listen to the Irish wrestlers you should know about Vince Sr.'s father, Jess. You've got to think like businessmen, and it's nice to see Moolah say something decent, because when it comes to money, that Fabulous Moolah gimmick was a shoot. To credit Vincent Sr. with that, because it's huge. The way it always went, and this was the way it was when I was part of the last time, every night, full-time wrestling crew for the USWA and Jerry Jarrett, 33% of the gate went toward the building and the promotion and the costs of production. 33% went toward the company, the payroll, your other bills, etc. And also that's where the owner and the promoter got paid from. And then 33% went to the talent roster, and those percentages were based upon a different scale, going from your main event, your big draws, to your opening matches or your preliminary matches or your undercard. And that was one hell of a way to do business. Number one, It specifically outlined for the Internal Revenue Service, who's always sniffing around looking to F with somebody, that these are not employees. We're talking about wrestling talent. Wrestling talent should not be employees because they would not be making as much money as they are today. Or back then, they're independent contractors. Independent contractors should be smart enough to know how to form an S corporation, folks, because you get a lot more tax benefits by doing that. And you'll see what I'm talking about if you have the brain power and if you ever make any money in the wrestling industry. Form an S corporation. But what that does then is simplify everything for everyone, and there's more money for everyone. For example, and I'm going to drop this topic right now after this. If they were employees, how the hell is Vince Sr. going to keep track of or take the write-offs on behalf of the individuals for meals, gas, clothing, gear, travel, etc.? He couldn't and he can't. You see what I'm saying? Any hooser, his personal life and death. Vince Sr. had 2 sons with his first wife, Victoria, Vicky Askew. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and I'm probably not. Roderick James, that's Roderick III, and Vince McMahon Jr., who was born in 1945. He married his second wife, Juanita Wayne Johnson, and they were married from 1916 to 1998, and the couple retired to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. McMahon would not live to see his company grow from a territorial promotion to what is now a worldwide organization. And on May 24th, 1984, McMahon died at the age of 69 from pancreatic cancer. McMahon and his wife Juanita are buried at Our Lady, Queen of Haven Catholic Cemetery in Fort Lauderdale. And I've just got to share this with you guys. You know, I really don't care about, and if you're a wrestling fan, in ways, yes, it matters. I mean, I'm not saying somebody who has, who's a sexual deviant or predator should have any power whatsoever. The point I'm trying to make is that Vince Jr., we're going to do Vince Jr., we're going to do Vince McMahon, did so much for the wrestling industry, and he's a businessman. And, let's not forget all those achievements. Let's not forget how he impacted your lives today. Even the smartest of internet wrestling fan, it wouldn't be fun if it weren't for Vince McMahon Jr. But this is the type of person that I am, and this is the type of shit I care about. And this was a rare time that Vincent Jr. opened up to somebody. I don't know how they got him to open up emotionally to somebody, because I don't just know Vince McMahon Jr. from passing in the halls. I worked off and on for the man for 20, 25 years. I don't remember, and I've had a lot of great personal interactions with him. And I can tell you, he's a businessman. And when you're a businessman and you're a successful businessman, they always try to turn you into worse than you are. Anyway, I love this, and this was in regards to a semi-toward relationship between Junior and Senior and the patching of things up. This touches me right now because I lost both my parents 15 days apart about 3 or 4 months ago. And, I did do a lot of forgiving and a lot of forgetting, and I'm glad that I did before they passed. Anyway, this is verbatim, and this is Vince McMahon Jr. When he was dying of cancer, I went to the hospital and kissed him. I've always been demonstrative. If I don't like you, I'll tell you. If I love you, male or female, I'll hug you and say I love you. But my dad was old Irish and didn't show affection. That's not how I live my life. It's certainly not the way my kids, Shane and Stephanie, were brought up. I don't know how many times a day I tell them I love them. But my dad, no. He never said it. May would say something complimentary about me to somebody else, but not to my face. That time in the hospital, I kissed him, and I said I loved him. He didn't like to be kissed, but I took advantage of him. Then I started to go. I hadn't quite gotten through the door when I heard him. I love you, Vinny. He didn't just say it, he yelled it. Once again, Irish wrestlers, you should know. And please check out in the description where there's going to be a Wikipedia link to Vince Sr.'s information for a lot more, because it goes on and on and on, and it's all good. And again, I'm Randy Ritchie. This is being brought to you by Premier Pro Wrestling, and underneath Vince Sr.'s information or history or Wikipedia link, you can see how to help support Premier Pro Wrestling and be entertained and have your ass entertained off for you. There you go, guys.